The cyberspace is home to billions of people and is the right platform you need to grow your business. The Center for Innovation and Technology is offering you a golden opportunity to speak directly to your market at an affordable price. We also offer media training workshops, live streaming, documentary production, and events management. Get in touch with us today on the following numbers: +263 867 711 0290 or 0718 100 235. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media platforms. Like our Facebook page, Center for Innovation and Technology. Follow us on Twitter @SiteZW. And you can also check out our website www.site.org.zw. You can also visit our offices at 45 Moffat Avenue, Hillside, Bulawayo. Take advantage of this opportunity to expand your business.
How would we work around the shutdown? Well, there's a lovely thing called VPN, which all of us were introduced to. But of course, if Wi-Fi is cut off, VPN is useless. You have to be creative and think outside of the box. Flights on shutdown. 60% of our audience is Zimbabwean, but a good 40% is watches from South Africa, watches from America, Australia, Botswana, the UK. You give your flash to someone who has a business that requires them to travel. That flash goes to someone in South Africa. They upload it, and the world will be able to see what's happening in Zimbabwe. We discussed that as a team, as an option. We weren't sure how long the shutdown would have gone on long for, but you would easily get away with it like that, unless they start searching for flashes at the airport and confiscating them. I think there's always a way to still communicate what's happening in the country. With regards to the license fee, personally, I don't think I should have to pay a license to record something in my office that I share on YouTube and WhatsApp. I don't see why I have to pay for that. The cost you put and you suggested is 8,000. Our revenues were more than that last year for the first season of POV, but I haven't seen enough of our colleagues with visible advertising on their spaces and on their shows and their content. So that would probably have to be further discussion with them to see, is that too steep? Is that something that you could reach if you were more consistent, if you were more deliberate? It's a pity like he's not here because they've done similar work with us, and I would have loved to hear from him as Bus Stop their regards on that. I know he's been vocal. I've seen a couple of Facebook posts where he's discussed that fee, but those are just my opinions, and I can just speak on what I feel and what I know as well.
During the internet shutdown, we learned some new terms and terminology. VPNs. Everyone was asking, what is a VPN? What is it used for? Does one need a VPN? Well, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, which means privacy online in a nutshell. VPNs are used that our locations are private and we surf the web anonymously without our ISP or anyone tracking what we do online. Welcome to the Tech Show. I'm your host, Sean, and today we decipher what the VPNs are and what they stand for. People have been asking, what is the potential downside of using free VPNs that were popping up during the internet shutdown? What is the downside? And what are the pitfalls of using such free VPNs? And how does one choose the perfect or correct VPN? These are the few pointers you have to look out for when choosing a free VPN service.
Hi, Judah.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
So, my question is it safe to use a VPN?
According to us digital security trainers, it is safe to use the VPN. You're trying to protect your traffic. It's not necessarily always have to do with government or anything like that, but it's also from unwanted scrutiny from potential hackers, potential people that could be trying to put malware on your computer, and generally just to protect information like your bank information, or if you're going to a website where you really don't want for people to know where you are surfing from, you could use a VPN.
When can one use a VPN? Is it only when there are shutdowns, or?
I believe as a good digital security practice, people should use VPNs possibly every day. it would be a good thing for you to use them every day, just so that you avoid having people try to scrutinize unnecessary traffic on, well, not unnecessary traffic, but try to scrutinize what exactly it is that you're surfing, where you're surfing from, things like that. So yeah.
So there's been this fade whereby everyone is just downloading all these free VPNs, maybe due to the fact that people don't have the US dollars to pay for the VPNs, and just that maybe everyone loves anything free. So how can you advise people to choose a trusted VPN? What is the things that one has to look out for?
First and foremost, you have organizations like Access Now, you have organizations like the Digital Society of Zimbabwe, you have organizations such as MISA Zimbabwe, SITE, ZW, and probably very well-known digital security trainers in your country or your region. Those would probably be the best port of call to ask about what a good free VPN would look like and what are the things to look out for a good free VPN. The other thing is to try and avoid potential problems, avoid a VPN that requires you to enter a lot of configurations in it, because it's more than likely that you might make a mistake or you will wind up giving out information that you didn't intend to give out. The other thing is, if it does say that it's free and open source and it's certified as tested by organizations such as we said earlier, Access Now, the Guardian Project, there's the Electronic Frontier Foundation as well. Those would be good places to start looking for free VPNs that would be good for you to use.
And lastly, how many VPNs should one have on the phone? We saw during the shutdown, some were having like 17 screens or VPNs 24 and so on. How many VPNs should one install on their devices?
Personally, I think just have one reliable VPN. It doesn't hurt for you to have maybe two options in the case where one of them is blocked, but any more than three, you look like you have a problem yourself.
What were the implications of the internet shutdown? How much did it cost Zimbabwe to shut down the internet? I spoke to Kolio Majama, and this is what she had to say.
So, Kolio, hi.
Hello.
Yes, from the internet shutdown, would you happen to know how much it cost this internet shutdown?
So our estimation for the shutdown is based on an application that was set by NetBlocks that looks at a complete or total shutdown, a partial one as well. But because of the complexities of Zimbabwe's shutdown, I think we'll put it about 20 billion, because we're looking at the fact that within Zimbabwe, mobile money transactions are a big thing right now, and also just internet banking as well. So that cost is a rough estimate. People can go around on that NetBlocks website and just look, or just simply Google NetBlocks estimation of internet shutdown to just play around with the figures that are available for that. Yeah.
Right. We've had the Ministry of Information Authority saying one thing, and then the Ministry of Communication saying another thing, that they will not hesitate to shut down the internet. What is your view in that regard after the incident of the court order?
I think that the complexities around the internet shutdown are largely to do with definitions of public and national interest. So when you look at the statements by the presidential spokesperson George Charamba when he was on an interview at Capital FM last week, what he did say is that it was necessary for them. So government can actually argue, and I think we've noted the media coverage where they are arguing that there was a lot of inciting and mobilizing of Zimbabweans to engage in violent acts. Obviously, the internet is not only for mobilizing. You just asked me a question on the cost of an internet shutdown, reliance on health services as well. So internet shutdowns are a no-no. I think that there should be a more civil way of dealing with the fact that there's unruly elements online, which is a big debate. I think this is why we Convergent meet around internet governance, how to regulate. But I think the big issue, and this is something that we've also discussed in the meeting that we just had, that's been facilitated by MISA Zimbabwe, is what are the extremities or necessities around ensuring that people's rights are recognized within whatever government deems as national or public interest.
I've just heard that there's a report that's coming out. When that might be coming out concerning the internet shutdowns that you'll be publishing?
Well, I'm currently doing an analysis of, just the developments around the internet shutdown. What was the role of civil society? Should the private sector, or should I say the mobile network operators or the internet service providers, should they actually have cut the internet? Do they not know what their laws say? And at whose behest? So what I will be doing is publishing an analysis of the events and also raising critical issues that have been brought up in Internet Governance Forum to say at what point is it necessary to regulate the Internet and at what point is it acceptable to shut it down.
The cyberspace is home to billions of people and is the right platform you need to grow your business. The Center for Innovation and Technology is offering you a golden opportunity to speak directly to your market at an affordable price. We also offer media training workshops, live streaming, documentary production, and events management. Get in touch with us today on the following numbers: +263 867 711 0290 or 0718 100 235. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media platforms. Like our Facebook page, Center for Innovation and Technology. Follow us on Twitter @SiteZW. And you can also check out our website www.site.org.zw. You can also visit our offices at 45 Moffat Avenue, Hillside, Bulawayo. Take advantage of this opportunity to expand your business.
MISA filed an urgent court application during the shutdown. So my question is, was the internet shutdown constitutional or legal?
Act does not allow for the disruption of communications in Zimbabwe. It simply gives government the right, in quotes, to listen in on people's conversations and to intercept messages that are transferred over mobile network operators like Econet or over internet service providers such as Africom or Zo. Hello?
How did the internet shutdown affect the population? What was the cost of this internet shutdown?
So if we're talking in monetary terms, the cost would have been, according to NetBlocks, which developed a tool, they say that the cost of an internet shutdown in an economy like Zimbabwe's is around $5.2 million a day. So for each of the days that the internet was totally shut down in Zimbabwe, we lost about $5.2 million. And then when there's a partial shutdown, when the shutdown is specific or limited to applications such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, then we're looking at an estimate of about 1.2 to 1.5 a day in terms of lost revenue. There were claims by some government departments that they lost around $300 million during the week of the shutdown. So I don't know whether these are funds that are in RTGS balance or in US dollar terms. But in US dollar terms, I would say that NetBlocks estimate or the NetBlocks tool would leave us looking at a loss of revenue of between $22 to $26 million for the duration of the 6-day period.
Okay. In your view, what is the role of the media in educating the population on the internet shutdowns and the use of VPNs?
So the media has a big role to play as the fourth estate, which simply means that the media has a role to play as people that monitor how government performs in its duties, and where government fails to perform its duties properly, the media has a role to call government to account. And this is the case with internet shutdowns as well. So in the previous question, you asked how much it cost, and I answered in terms of monetary value. These are actually estimates that we can base on things that people transact with online. So for like the loss revenue in terms of internet of online banking, that was not possible over those 6 days is easy to quantify or calculate. But what's not easy to quantify or calculate is the human element, the human stories. Think about the family members that were out of Zimbabwe at that time who could not communicate with their family members back home. Those stories are hardly ever told because when you just look at them, you can't really tell how much was lost. You can't really quite calculate that, okay, so because so and so couldn't communicate with so and so in Zimbabwe, they lost $100. And that's where the media comes in. By telling this or by putting a human face to the problems that we face as Zimbabweans, to the problems that are caused when there's internet shutdowns. So I would say the media has a role in reporting the human stories behind the internet shutdown, the suffering that was brought by the internet shutdown. And then the media also has a role to play in informing members of the public about the various tools which exist to sort of get around internet shutdowns and information controls. So, for example, when there was an internet shutdown, there was a lot of talk about VPNs. There was a lot of talk about how to keep on connected, being connected or keep on online. And people didn't know where to get reliable information on, for example, how to set up a VPN. And members of the media can collaborate with organizations such as MISA, who are working to keep people online during the internet shutdown. And we need members of the media to actually distribute that information and actually spread the word about keeping online during internet shutdowns.
On the legal side in Zimbabwe, are VPNs legal or illegal? Because we saw messages going around that people have been hunted or police were looking for people who are using VPNs during the shutdown. What's the legal side of VPNs in Zimbabwe?
At the moment, as things stand, there is no law which bans or prohibits the use of VPNs in Zimbabwe. So people are still free to use VPN technology in Zimbabwe. And this was even evident from the fact that government departments were able to remain online or on social media during the internet shutdown. If you look at, for example, the Ministry of Information, they actually kept tweeting throughout the internet shutdown, well, throughout the partial internet shutdown, which had restricted access to Twitter and Facebook and WhatsApp. So they stayed online, which is indicative of them also using VPN technology. This might change, unfortunately, possibly with the new cybersecurity bill. We have seen countries such as China and the United Arab Emirates put in place laws which are restrictive and which prohibit the use of VPNs. We hope that this will not be the case in Zimbabwe, and we wait to see. But at the moment, with the laws that we have, VPN use is very legal. And I'll share a link with you to a VPN that MISA is distributing as a way of helping people stay online during information controls.
We have the presidential spokesperson, George Aramba, coming out that they won't hesitate to shut down the internet. Isn't that setting a precedent from this previous internet shutdown?
Those were unfortunate comments on both Charamba's part and Energy Mutodi's part, the Deputy Minister's part, because they reflect a lack of understanding of what the internet is and how how important the internet has grown in Zimbabwe. So it's like someone saying they want to drain a dam or an ocean simply because they want to kill maybe a specific kind of fish that is found in that ocean. But what they forget is that in an ocean, you don't only find sharks or dolphins and whales, but you find a whole lot of things that people can benefit from. And that's the same with the internet. Currently, the internet isn't used just to spread information about stayaways, as government would make us believe. The internet is used to carry on banking. Right now, we don't have cash, and a large number of transactions are transacted over on internet-based services and platforms. Right now, it's expensive to pick up a phone and call someone in a different town. So that's where WhatsApp and Facebook come in. And the things that we communicate on these services are not always political. They are information that we need for our day-to-day survival, for our day-to-day business, and for our day-to-day education purposes. So it's really unfair for government to identify a really minor thing such as political assembly. Anyway, people have a right to associate themselves freely with people that share similar political beliefs and convictions. And government has no right, in as far as we are not in a state of emergency or in a state of war, to unnecessary and unreasonably restrict those rights to association, to share information, and to access information and to express ourselves. So government really needs to revise its statements. It really needs to revise its public communications, because such reckless statements, if I can say, will actually condemn Zimbabwe into being classified as a country that is run by dictators, and that will not look good for anyone on the international scene or international community.
The internet shutdown that the MISA Twitter handle was pushing or trying to help users to find ways on how to circumvent the internet, and you were trying to show them or trying to educate them on which VPNs to use. I've also noticed that you've got a VPN that you're pushing Siphon at the moment.
Yep.
How does a user know which is the correct VPN to use? Because we've seen people having 17 to 20 VPNs on their phones. So how does one know that this is a trusted VPN? How can you tell?
So we are very sensitive to privacy issues at MISA. And the reason why we were restricting our recommendations to 3 specific VPN services is because we looked at how secure they are and how much they prioritize people's data and how easy they are to set up. Let's remember that this technology is fairly new to a large number of people. Before the internet shutdown, a large number of people had not even heard about VPN technology. They had not even known where to get it and how to use it. So if you look at Siphon, if you look at Tunnel Bay, and you look at Tor, which are the 3 VPNs we were recommending throughout the shutdown, those are easy to download and they are easy to set up and use. And they are mostly free. And they don't violate people's privacy by selling their data without people's knowledge. So coming back to the issue of Siphon, Siphon is very easy to use and is very secure. And it's what we have been using in our work since 2016. So we do have a track record with that specific VPN provider. And above all, it's free. So the other thing that we're discouraging people from doing is, if you were in enough groups, WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups or whatever, you would have come across people who were saying they offer free VPN services where you actually enter the server details and the passwords and usernames. Now, we were discouraging that because in most cases, one wouldn't know who is in control of that VPN server. And because of the nature of how VPNs work, it would be easy for someone to use a VPN and not be aware that all their information that they are using online is actually being exploited by the person who's running that VPN service. So to avoid this, we stuck to VPN services that were trusted and that were reliable.
Suggest, or would you implore users to always have VPNs installed on their machines to keep them on even after the internet shutdown? Are you advocating that they always use VPNs?
Well, it really depends. The nature of our data in Zimbabwe would make it a bit complicated or expensive to use VPNs, because most Zimbabweans that use WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter are most likely using a social media bundle on their phones. So this means that the minute you start using a VPN, if I'm correct, your internet bundle or your social media bundle to WhatsApp, for example, would not work. You would need like airtime or data, like unbundled data that is not specific to WhatsApp or specific to Facebook. So that would be expensive to most Zimbabweans for them to use VPNs on a day-to-day basis. But with that said, when you're using a device such as your phone or a laptop on a hotspot, think about how many ZOL hotspots there are now in urban areas in Zimbabwe. Think about how many Tel1 Wi-Fi hotspots, or even hotspots at some of the restaurants that we go to, restaurants and shops. So those are open hotspots that we don't really know who controls. So does ZOL secure their hotspots? We never know. And studies and research has shown that even if a hotspot is secure, there are chances that a third party who wants to maybe access information on people's devices can create a vulnerability on that hotspot connection that will allow them to look at what people have on their devices. And that's when we encourage people to use VPN technology, because a VPN will guarantee to a certain extent the security of communications that take place over that VPN connection. So besides using VPNs to get around social media shutdowns, we recommend using VPNs when you are visiting a secure website and when you are using public Wi-Fi. And I must say, or I must repeat, that the VPNs that we recommend people should use when they use public Wi-Fi are not these free VPNs that have a lot of adverts on them. Because the minute you see a VPN service throwing or sending a lot of advertising your way, then there's a high likelihood that that VPN service is also selling your data, which may include confidential data if you say do online banking using that unsecure VPN.
All right, that's it for now. Thank you. We've come to the end of the show, and we hope you found the show informative and useful. For more information, tips and tricks on which VPN to use, please visit our website www.site.org.zw to find out more. That's it for this week. Until next time, bye.